Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Here, before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole earth will be converted into a huge brain, which in fact it is. All things being particles of a real and rhythmic whole. Nikola Tesla said that in the 1900s. And my guest today is a dear friend of the Culture Matters podcast, friend of myself, me, and I, the one, the only, the real Brian Hess, founder of the Pavement Group, top contractor school, leader, thinker, mentor. Thanks for coming on. And I picked this quote about the brain and the wireless and really, because I'm thinking, what's the importance of humanity and technology? What do you think Tesla be thinking today, having said that even? And
being a guy that came from the wireless industry, I have a lot of opinions about that quote. I remember 2004 entering the wireless industry, and back in the days of if you had a colored BlackBerry, you were the cat's ass, right? Like, and you had a flip phone, and you were, typing the button 3 times to get to the letter C to send a text. And I remember this distinctly. I remember when iPhones hit the market, right? And I worked for Verizon, and AT&T had the exclusive rights to the iPhone when it came out. But there was a lot of evolution happening in those days of, application-driven devices. And I remember them saying in a meeting that, in X number of years, I think it was 5 years from now, everything's going to have an app. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why would people create apps when you could just build it online, right? Like, you could just build it on a website. People could go there. And I was so incredibly wrong, just the adaptation of apps. What I was missing in that moment, I believe, was the marketing power of an app, like, keeping somebody inside your own ecosystem. But to go back to that quote and talking about the connectivity of wireless and making, the whole world one big brain, it's an interesting thought, man, because we have, there's places in the United States still that don't have great wireless service, right? Because of the lack of population in those areas. And when you go to those places, you can't help but notice how far behind in some cases they are from a technology standpoint, right? People go there intentionally to get out of the advancements of technology and back to, some peace and quiet and some disconnect and things like that. But when you think about the connectivity of technology and innovation, it's what drives the evolution of humanity right now. It's, when you go to cities and you see the things that are happening, and you see, here in Pittsburgh, we had self-driving cars from Uber before anybody else, right? Other than San Francisco. And I've ridden in them, right? And, when you see that stuff and you see the idea of self-driving tractor trailers and the innovation that's in front of us, it's a crazy thought, but we're right in the middle of it. And so I'm excited to have this conversation and kind of unpack that this morning.
how has technology been a benefit, been a differentiator to the Pavement Group up to this point, or at least what's the vision of that even?
Yeah, I'll go back to this, man. When I left the wireless world and went straight into construction, and one of the things that I noticed was the lack of technology in general. There was little to no innovation in this industry, and construction as a whole is really that, it's that old school mentality, hardworking, innovative. It has a different definition to some degree in construction. And so when I came into the field, I didn't have the knowledge, technical knowledge of the jobs, of the projects, of the way that things were done that everybody else did. And so, for the first, year or two of my existence in the construction industry, I had to actually ask people what their problems were. And so what I figured out is that most of the problems, the major majority of the problems, probably 95% of the issues that existed that customers, were unhappy with or not fully satisfied with, had nothing to do with the work. So they had nothing to do with the technical nature of construction. They had everything to do with communication, lack of transparency, contractors not doing what they say they're going to do. And really, to me, that all pointed in the direction of, I can solve that with technology. And the reason that I thought that was because I spent, the previous 8 years of my life in solving those same problems for construction companies, working for Verizon Wireless, right? I was, selling devices to small to medium businesses, which construction was the majority of those small to medium businesses, or at least a big chunk of it. And so I was very familiar with how companies were taking little problems in their businesses and using technology to solve it. And so I started, really driving home the importance to our team at the company I was working for of creating some transparency, creating maps of where the issues that existed on people's parking lots. And, I remember creating Word documents with, 8 pictures on a page and a number 1 through number 8, and then creating a map and remember the old application Paint, Microsoft Paint?
Yeah.
Like I was using that simple of a program to solve a big problem, right? And as I was doing it, man, people were just all over it. Like it was a level of transparency, and it was a level of information that these property owners and property managers had never had before. And it was helping them manage their money better. And so as I learned that, it was like, man, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be tools out there. And that was, 2010, 2011 is when I started doing this stuff. And so as it evolved and really innovation started to speed up, meaning the access to applications, the access to different ways to provide this information became available, so did the idea in my mind of how we could solve some of these problems for property managers and property owners. And so, our goal at the Pavement Group was very simple, is to be the most innovative and advanced company in our industry when it comes to how we provide information to our customers to simplify their decision, to reduce costs, to simplify their decisions, to create transparency at a level that they've never seen before, and to ultimately be able to speed up business and reduce the frustrations and costs that come along with, managing a portfolio of hundreds or thousands of parking lots or asphalt and concrete surfaces, right? And so as we did that, we innovated one piece of it, and then we figured out there was other things that we could do, that we could add to it. And some of that was pricing transparency. It was like, if we go out and look at a property, how do we just provide the pricing that the customer needs right there? And then they can pick and choose based on all the issues that exist on their parking lots. They can pick and choose the things that they actually have the budget for right now. And the rest of it becomes a living, breathing, cloud-based system that allows them to see what still exists that needs to be fixed. And so we've been able to do that across large portfolios, hundreds of millions of square feet of asphalt and concrete surfaces, and really take it from, how am I going to do this? A property or facility manager or a VP of construction or a director of real estate, VP of real estate, they say, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure out what needs to be done and make sure that I'm spending the money in the right way? It goes from that to, I know exactly what I would do with the money, and here's where we sit, and here's what I can take, and all the data and information that I can take to my superiors with backup of photos and videos and estimates and pricing and all the things that are needed that they've never had are at their fingertips at any given moment. And so that's kind of, how we have leveraged that into being able to solve those problems. And, it's never really existed before the way that we've done it. Right. And so, And a special thank you and shout out to many of the early adopters from a customer perspective that had faith in us to be able to do this for them, because they were the driving reason, not just our team, but we worked collaboratively with the first handful of customers that we did this with to be able to create the solutions that they were looking for. And so it has created a real unique value proposition. You know, people talk about differentiation all the time in business, and most people, I don't believe, have any idea what that actually means. You know, they think there's some trick that they can create, you know, to create differentiation, or maybe they can hold something back from a customer that creates differentiation. And what is real differentiation is something, a deliverable to a customer that solves the biggest problem that they have. They can't easily be duplicated. You know, it can't, it's a unique process. It's unique technology. It's unique people. It's a combination of all of those things. And we've been able to build that, you know, over the last 5 years. We've been able to continue to innovate our own process and our own technology in order to deliver to customers at a level they haven't seen before.
What's next?
So for us, the world of AI is right in front of us, and so not using that would be a foolish step, certainly. And so we've got a couple different buckets of AI in motion right now that's going to help us, you know, speed things up. So you know, from a pricing perspective, in our world, to give the listeners some context, in our world, we deal with issues that exist on parking lots. So we deal with large parking lot replacements as an example of one thing that we do, but we also deal with trip hazards. So a pothole or a broken up spot in a parking lot. And for those people that, you know, shop at a gas station or go to a bank or, you know, go to a grocery store or something like that, when you see a pothole in a parking lot, well, if that parking lot's dark at night and you've got, you know, somebody walking through that parking lot and doesn't see it, they can turn an ankle, and that obviously becomes a problem for businesses. So speed at getting things turned around for our customers is a priority. Them being able to get a price to fix a real issue that they've come across is a priority. And so we have innovated the technology that we use. And this is in motion right now to being, you know, hopefully rolled out here in the next couple of months to be able to do predictive pricing. So if you're a property facility manager, you have an issue, you send it to us through our application. We see where that issue exists. We can triangulate that with some other technology that we use to verify how large the issue is from your photo, from aerial imagery, things like that. And we can figure out, you know, how large that repair is. And so with this AI technology, predictive pricing, we know exactly what that repair has been priced at before, right? Because we've done thousands and thousands of jobs over the last 5 years. And so the pricing that we've received on that type of repair will start, you know, from a distance that's immediate and work its way out and be able to apply the most relevant pricing to that repair that needs to be done. And so, you know, in the world of construction, I think a property or facility manager would tell you that, you know, it's not unusual to be 7 to 14 days to get a quote turned around. If they send an issue to a contractor like us, you know, we can make it happen faster sometimes, and especially in these emergency cases, we can, but not always. So in the case that we have predictive pricing, we're literally going from, just say on the long end, 14 days to less than a few hours to be able to get them the quote that they need to be able to approve that quote and activate a contractor anywhere in the United States to be able to go and repair that issue that exists and keep their customers safe and obviously reduce the number of complaints, but most importantly, lawsuits that would happen against a company that would have that kind of risk existing on their parking lots.
How much value could that create to decrease that speed?
It's
or increase the speed, decrease the weight.
I would say I would take the position that, you know, it's almost priceless, because, you know, that when you get down to value, you know, you could put the value on it that it's $30,000 for the average trip and fall. That's usually the settlement, right? So if somebody trips and falls in a parking lot, call it 30 grand. Maybe it's gone up with inflation the last couple of years, but 30,000 was the last number that I'm familiar with. But there's also the untrackable negative impact of, how that customer views that company from there on out, and then how, their family would view it. So, let's just say, my grandmother goes out and she falls in a retailer's parking lot. And then, there's something about that experience that doesn't go well. Well, the likelihood of my family shopping there less or not shopping there at all is significant. And unfortunately, it's not that the retailer doesn't care. It's that the issue wasn't resolved, probably because they didn't know about it, or something was missed, or there was no plan for, how they were kind of doing it. And so, the whole process that we do eliminates that. So, it's the on paper value versus the, unpredictable or untrackable value. It's significant, right? And, these are the things we always say, your parking lot's kind of like the offensive line in football. If somebody's talking about it, it's probably not for a good reason, right? It's probably because the quarterback just got blown up is the only time that the offensive line in football is talked about. And so the same is true for your parking lot. Nobody's going to say, oh, what a beautiful parking lot. That's their expectation, that they pull into a safe, walkable, well-designed, easy to drive in, traffic patterns are right parking lot. And so when they don't see that, they have a million places today to buy their stuff from, and they can just go somewhere else. They have a million places to bank at, and so they'll just go somewhere else. And so these businesses, the parking lot is something that's not really noticed, but it's something that can have a negative impact on a business.
It's not noticed until it is. And if it
Correct.
is, it's bad.
Yes. Absolutely correct.
In closing, like those that don't invest in technology, in, competitors, contemporaries, what are they, how do they keep up?
I think we're in an interesting time right now, man, where when people, when people are not investing, or they don't have, they can't keep up with innovation, I would say those equities are significantly at risk, because it takes a few dials of innovation to capitalize on a significant amount of market share. And, for us, when we get in front of people, we've got a show that we're going to here in a couple of weeks, and, we'll be in front of dozens and dozens of executives from large companies that we're trying to do business with, some of which we probably already do business with now. But the number one comment we get is like, where has this been, and why didn't I know about it sooner? And so for those companies out there that in any industry, because every industry is going through something similar, it's very important to utilize technology. With that said, it's also extremely important because, I've watched companies lose their culture through trying to automate too much. And so, there's a balance there of, driving technology at every twist and turn that you can in the process, the customer experience, the customer journey, the employee journey, for us, the contractor journey, right? It's all those lanes, trying to innovate in those spaces to make it easiest on the people that do business with us, while never losing that old-fashioned shaking people's hands, looking them in the eye, and doing business the old-fashioned way. Because, people are still the driving force behind business. And so that's a difficult thing to balance as companies innovate, because they start to see the efficiency. They start to see the ability to reduce the number of staff. And we go through this in our company all the time, because there's innovations that reduce the need for people, right? They reduce the need for the number of people that we have. But if we don't look at people first and figure out how we can provide a higher level of service as a result of the innovation that we do, it's super important for us to keep that perspective that people come first. And innovation should help the people. It should take the workload off the people. It should speed up communication. It should improve the customer experience. It should do all of those things that people would see technology and innovation doing, without eliminating the need for people. Those people get reassigned to improve the customer experience and to do the things that they probably would have liked to do more the whole time. But now they have the time to do that because now technology is carrying the load that the human used to do before. And so to those companies out there that, maybe are struggling with innovation, I would say, look into hiring a consultant, hiring somebody that has that kind of knowledge that can get you in the race. Because, I've been saying this for years, but the race to become a digital contractor has been underway for a long time. And for those who aren't in the race yet, it's going to be really difficult for them to keep up.